Just sit down and watch this one movie, and I'll never bother you again. That request came from my mom, probably when I was about 12. It was a Sunday afternoon, and when you're 12, you've usually got solid plans to waste away the day with friends riding bikes, reading comics, or generally schlepping around the neighborhood. I didn't have anything planned for that day. What 12-year-old actually plans anything? So maybe I was bummed out that none of my friends had come to my rescue with something cool to do. I noticed my mom was coming into the den, getting ready to sit down in her favorite recliner to watch a local TV program called Golden Classics. The program featured movies from the classic Hollywood era, and it was never anything I was remotely interested in watching. These stills of these movies from the station's advertisements looked tired, if not downright laughable. Men in suits and hats, all of whom looked the same to me. Women wearing outfits that looked so ridiculous I couldn't imagine any of these guys thinking they were attractive, much less sexy. Every time my mom tuned into the show, I decided this was a snooze fest I should avoid. Now, don't get me wrong, I loved movies, but I loved cool movies. The pictures that turned my dials up to 11 were titles like Jaws, The Poseidon Adventure, Westworld, Billy Jack, Clint Eastwood westerns, anything with action. The movies my mom watched were so slow, with no action, nothing even approaching special effects, just plain boring. Nothing ever happened in these movies. I was such a punk in those days that I'd give my mom a hard time whenever I saw her getting geared up to watch Golden Classics, and I did so on this particular Sunday afternoon. "Look," she said, "just sit down and watch this one movie, and I'll never bother you again." She knew I had nothing else to do. My friends were busy, out of town, or, knowing some of them, grounded. I could have gone into my room and read comics or worked on my drawing, but I thought, why not? Maybe this movie will be so bad I can make fun of it while we're watching it. Mystery Science Theater hadn't yet become a thing, but that didn't stop me from talking back to the screen during bad movies. "Okay," I said, "what's this golden classic called?" "It's The Maltese Falcon," she said, "with Humphrey Bogart, Mary Astor, Sidney Greenstreet, and Peter Lorre." She might as well have been reading the phone book from a different town. The only one of these people I'd ever heard of was Humphrey Bogart. The rest of them were nobodies as far as I was concerned. My mom tried to impress me with some facts about Sidney Greenstreet, but from the Golden Classics ad, he just looked like some old fat guy. Yeah, very exciting. Maybe the highlight of the movie would be watching him eat a couple of boxes of donuts while waiting on his chair to break. "Just watch the first 15 minutes. If you don't like it, you can leave." I plopped down in my favorite seat, the closest one to the TV. I'm sure I was sulking, keeping an eye on the grandfather clock to the left of the TV. "It's in black and white, I guess." She nodded. "Great." And it began. I recognized the huge Warner Brothers logo and secretly harbored a thought that maybe Bugs Bunny might show up and make this thing fun. But then the music got ominous, and the screen was filled with the towering statue of a black bird. Several things went through my mind at that moment, but the main one was a realization that my mother had seen this before, probably in a movie theater when it was first released. She would have been about the age I was then, 12 or 13. That black bird covering the screen would have been 20 or 30 feet high, absolutely terrifying. The names in the credits that came and went across the screen were meaningless, but the bird was not. It spelled danger, if not doom. Even then, I knew this was a ridiculous thought. This wasn't a movie about a giant killer bird. I knew that, but something about that opening made me sit up and take notice. I was too overwhelmed by the image of the Black Bird to take much notice of the words about the Knight Templars of 1539, but I did catch that last phrase, and the fate of the Maltese Falcon remains a mystery to this day. After a couple of shots of San Francisco, my expectations were further challenged by the enormous lettering for Spade and Archer, seen from inside the office so that the letters were backwards. What did this mean? And then there was someone I recognized, Humphrey Bogart. But what was he doing with that small bag and a thin piece of paper? He was rolling a cigarette? Couldn't you just buy them? Come on. Bogart's secretary comes in to announce that there's someone to see him, and furthermore, that she's a knockout. So this woman comes in, and to my 12-year-old eyes, she's no knockout. And that fur she's wearing, and that hat, I probably laughed out loud and got the stink eye from my mom, so I kept quiet. As I suspected, there was a lot of talking, especially by this woman named Wonderly. She said so much of the Bogart character so quickly, I was already lost. I didn't know if all that was supposed to be important, so I just went with the flow, waiting for something to happen. I didn't have to wait very long. Before I knew it, the Bogart character, Sam Spade, had a dead partner, Miles Archer, and Spade was investigating the murder. Now we're talking. And then strange characters began showing up. Joel Cairo, a short little guy who just thought he was going to get the better of Sam Spade. And a young guy who talked tough and tried to look tough, thinking he was going to mix it up with Spade, but was really just a poser. And the guy's name was Wilmer. Seriously? Wilmer? What a dipstick. Then the fat man, Casper Gutman, shows up. Wow, this guy was a load. Gutman took up the entire screen. He was enormous but menacing, despite his dismissive laugh. He began talking to Spade about the Black Bird, about history. I was trying to watch Bogart's face as he took in this strange tale of war and tributes, but I was also engaged with the story. Gutman reminded me of the father of one of my friends, a dad who would tell us interesting stories from history and his experiences in the military. But my friend's dad told them with warmth, reveling in the glories of pure storytelling. Gutman had something sinister in mind, you could just tell. Although I didn't catch everything that was going on in this tale, it was compelling. Now I wished I'd paid closer attention to that block of text at the beginning of the movie. From this point in the film, something interesting was happening in every scene. Not just interesting, but often fascinating. Every character wanted something out of this whole mess, yet they all had something to hide. As we spent significant time in Spade's apartment, I came to the realization that every one of these characters was lying, at least about something, and that absolutely blew my mind. Even Spade, the hero of the movie, was, in a way, playing the same game the rest of them were playing. The way the finale played out moved so fast, I wasn't exactly sure what was happening. Okay, the bird's a fake. So what does that mean? The movie's over? Oh no. Now there's the fallout. What's going to happen to this crew? Wilmer's gone. Cairo yells at Gutman, then agrees to join him on the continued search for the Black Bird. And we've got Bridget and Spade left. A happy ending? No way. I must have been on the edge of my seat when he tells Bridget, "I won't play the sap for you." That's telling her she's been lying to you for the entire movie. Don't let her off the hook. Then there's the moment Bridget thinks Spade's just kidding around, then realizes he's not. Spade is cold-blooded and does not give a rip. She's getting her comeuppance, and he's as cool as the underside of a pillow. Spade places her in the elevator where she's escorted by the cops. Then and now, I will always think of Bridget taking an elevator ride to hell, while Bogart takes his time descending the stairs. They're headed in the same direction, but their paths are completely different. When the movie was over, I looked at my mom. She didn't say anything, but simply nodded. Mission accomplished. She'd done it. She'd hooked me, and she knew it. I had to see more movies like this, and I would. During the next 40 years, we would watch many of them together, but the Maltese Falcon was the one that started it all. Did you find them on your own, or did someone convince you to watch classic movies? How did they go about it, and how did it go? Were you compliant or kicking and screaming? I'd love to hear your stories. I hope you've enjoyed this first segment of Growing Up with Movies, and I hope you'll stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching.